We think of modern consumerism as just buying stuff. But what if it's something more? What if it's actually a trap? That's the pretty radical idea we're digging into today. The argument that our whole economy is a system designed to keep us stuck in a loop of working and spending. So let's dive in. You know that feeling, right? Like you're on a treadmill, working harder and harder, but financially, you're just not getting anywhere. Well, the source material we're looking at says, hey, that's not an accident. That feeling is a deliberate feature of the system we're all living in. All right, so let's actually pull back the curtain on what our source calls the invisible treadmill. We're going to unpack the mechanics behind that feeling of being stuck and see exactly how this whole thing is put together. So here's the big, bold claim right up front. The economic game we're all playing, it's not random. The argument is that it has been intentionally designed to keep most of us, the vast majority, in a continuous loop of working and being in debt. I know, it's a huge claim, so let's see how they back it up. Okay, so the best way to think about this is like a game. A massive game we're all forced to play. The only catch? Most of us were never given the rule book. So now, we're going to start revealing those hidden rules, one by one, to figure out how this trap is really set. And here's the first mind-blowing number from the source: 97%. The argument is that the system is engineered to keep that many people near the bottom. And why would anyone design something like that? Well, it's pretty simple. You get a constant, reliable supply of labor to power the economy, fueled by a workforce that doesn't really have any other options. And this right here is basically the engine that keeps that treadmill spinning. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful three-step loop. First, your monthly expenses, rent, food, all of it, they keep going up. Second, your income, it pretty much stays flat. So what's the inevitable result? You have to keep selling your time just to survive. The source calls this a forced labor cycle. Okay, let's talk about inflation. We usually think of it as just this natural thing that happens in an economy, but this perspective frames it very differently. It's seen as a deliberate tool, a tool used to make sure money loses its value over time. The message it sends is loud and clear. You better spend your money now because if you save it, it's just going to become worthless. And that constant pressure to spend is what keeps that work-spend cycle turning. So if we're all being pushed to spend, what are we actually buying into? This is where we get into the psychological side of the trap, what the source calls the value illusion. This is a really crucial distinction to make. We're taught to chase what's called perceived value, the status that comes with a luxury watch or a designer bag. We spend our hard-earned money on it. But the real value isn't in the item itself. Nope. It's the immense social and financial power that our collective desire gives to the people and companies who create those brands. And this kind of programming apparently starts super early. The source points out how our culture, through media, advertising, even our schools, defines what success looks like. It's the big house, the fancy car. But these aren't just aspirations. They're described as collective beliefs that have been carefully constructed to fuel entire industries that, you guessed it, thrive on our labor. But the game isn't just about hidden rules. It gets deeper. The source argues there are two entirely different sets of financial rules, depending on where you stand. And this difference is key to how the whole system maintains itself. Here's a perfect example: a luxury car. An average person buys it, probably on an installment plan with high interest. That car becomes a liability, a thing that just sucks money out of their pocket. A wealthy individual, however, might buy the exact same car through their company. Suddenly, it's a business expense. They can write it off on their taxes. Same product, but for one person it's a debt. For the other, it can be an asset. Completely different rules, completely different outcomes. So this all leads to a really interesting, kind of challenging question. You know how we often see financial freedom, that dream of living off investments, as the ultimate goal? But is that true financial freedom? Is it a real escape? Well, according to this argument, the answer is no. It's actually just another level of the game. You're still dependent on a system that someone else designed, someone else controls, and someone else is still profiting from. You haven't escaped the game. You've just leveled up. So if leveling up isn't the true escape, then what is? This is where we get to the proposed solution, how you can move from being just a player in the game to becoming the person who designs it.
But here's the thing, the trap is evolving. It's not just physical stuff anymore. It has moved into the digital world. The source warns that these new technologies are creating entirely new mechanisms for consumption and labor, all designed to capture our most valuable modern resource. And what is that resource? It's our attention. In today's economy, attention is the new currency. Every video you watch, every article you read, every time you scroll, you are spending your attention. And when you spend it, someone else is earning from it. In this world, you are the product.
Ultimately, the source presents us with a choice between two paths. We can stay consumers, spending our time and our attention to make other people wealthy, or we can become creators and start building our own systems that generate sustainable income for ourselves. This single sentence really captures the entire message, doesn't it? It's a powerful call to action. Stop just accepting the default rules someone else made up and start building your own. It's about shifting from a passive role to an active one and taking control of your own economic path. And that leaves us with one final powerful question. Look, we all have to play a game of some kind. The only choice we really have is whether we play by someone else's rules or design our own. So what game will you design?